everybody, I am Coach Rebecca Smith here for our weekly Monday Q&A with Coach Rebecca session. I missed you guys last week, was traveling and didn't make it back in time, but we are back on track with our Monday night 4:30 Pacific Facebook Live sessions, and this is where I answer questions from members of the Perform Happy community as well as people who reach out to me. Of course, I give priority to the members, but this week I got one that I thought was just too good to not talk about. So I am a high performance coach. I am the director and founder of Complete Performance Coaching as well as the Perform Happy community, which is the complete online mental toughness training center. And I help kids age 8 through 18 up their mental game so that their physical game can shine. And I do that through either one-on-one coaching, through FaceTime or Skype, or through the online mental toughness training center where I have various courses and self-study and parent courses and all kinds of good stuff that you can kind of plug into your busy life as an athlete and a sport family. All right, so I'm going to dig into today's question. If you guys have questions or comments, feel free to type them in as we go. And if we have time, I will try to answer them. Okay, here's a question from Cindy. My son is 13 years old. He's very stubborn and gets nervous. Melts down, won't get out of the car. He won't eat, throws up before races. He won't eat anything because he doesn't want to feel full. I've tried to explain, just do your best. I've threatened him. I've bribed him. I've tried asking what's wrong. I'm tired. I don't feel well. Help. He also doesn't like to swim if other swimmers that he's friendly with are not swimming. Thank you so much for your time, Cindy. All right, so this is obviously about pre-performance nerves, and some of the best swimmers I've ever worked with, we're talking Olympic trials and D1 athletes, they had a history of throwing up in the bushes before a race. So this is not uncommon, and it usually happens when the kids care. So I'm going to give you guys basically 3 points that will help you to figure out at least something to get him under control and having a little bit more fun so that ideally he can reach his goals. Okay, number 1, you have to have a plan. 2, you need to prime yourself for the flow experience, which I talked about a lot, but I'll tell you a little bit about it here as well. And also, you need to get excited. Okay, so I'm going to give you a little case study of one of my athletes who I'm going to call Lauren. I would never use an actual athlete's name or situation, so I've changed things up a little bit, but I'm going to tell you about Lauren because she made huge strides toward her performance anxiety once we started working together. So she was 13, anxiety at meets, she was feeling pressured, she was depressed. She would have these phenomenal practices. She was the hardest worker on her team basically at practice, and then she would bomb at meets. She would get so nervous that she just could not pull it together. She had all these fears like, is my suit gonna rip? Am I gonna drop time or am I gonna go so slow? And she had like all these worst case scenarios kind of flying through her head. And it made it so she couldn't sleep, it made it so she couldn't swim well, and it made it so that she was not enjoying her sport anymore. So here's what I did with her. We started with this concept of have a plan. If you're nervous, a lot of the time that fear happens, it's because your brain doesn't know what to expect. So if you know that, okay, this is what could happen, and this is what I'll do. This could also happen, and this is what I'll do. If you have a plan for every scenario, then you're in business. Also, it's way better to be proactive about a plan than reactive. You don't want to be like, oh no, I'm freaking out. What do I do? Instead, you go, how do I prevent myself from freaking out by having a plan to keep myself steady and calm and confident on the day of a race? So we went back through Lauren's old races and we said, okay, when were you the most nervous? Let's talk about that. What was going on? What led to that? What are some of the clues we can find about why that happens for you? Let's talk about some races where you did really well. Is it possible for you to do really well when you're incredibly stressed out? For her, it wasn't. The feeling stressed and performing well did not go together. Some kids, they freak out and then get the best time of their life every time. And for them, we just go, great. So nerves are just part of your go time experience. Okay, so that's something you have to look at, is looking back at past experiences, past positives, past negatives, and what can you learn? What are the patterns that you want to base your strategy based on, okay? Then we came up with a plan for Lauren on what she was going to do before each race, before the meet in general, and how to reset in between races, because that's another time where people get kind of sideways. If you have a bad race, a lot of people think, well, I had a bad race, so that means it's a bad meet. But it doesn't have to be that way. So if you know exactly what to do with a success or with a failure, then you can bounce back quickly. And so that's what I do, is we come up with a way to kind of like let it go right away and then get back on track. So here's where the food thing comes in. When you're stressed, your brain is on high alert. Your brain is saying, there's a threat. This is not safe. When really it's completely 100% safe. You're not going to drown. Nothing's on fire. Your heart and your brain feel like there's a big threat. So what happens in your body, if you were to be chased by a tiger and there was a legitimate threat to your life, your brain would tell your stomach to evacuate. Get everything out that we don't need. Digestion stops, and all we need to do is get the heck out of here. So you feel like you're going to throw up. Sometimes you actually do throw up. You feel like you're going to pee your pants. I was a gymnast, and whenever I'd step up to go on the beam, I'd like immediately have to go potty. I have a 2-year-old. But so it's all part of the brain's how I deal with fear system. So knowing that, you can look at it and go, okay, I feel a little nauseous. That just means I'm a little bit nervous. We'll talk about what to do with that in a minute here. But one of the best ways in the moment when you are in crisis is to bring the other parts of your brain into the equation. So when you are in fight or flight, the caveman part of your brain basically is on high alert, which means your reasoning is out of town. Your reasoning is not happening. And what you need is to you can't think your way out of it, but if you can just go, okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, how nervous am I? And then your brain's going to be like, I don't know, but you keep thinking, okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, how nervous am I? And then you go, 10, 10, 10. Okay, well, no, actually 9. Well, maybe I'm only at a 7. Just that process will actually open up a part of your brain that can tell you, the rest of your brain, hey, buddy, there's no tiger. It's okay. So that's one thing you can do. Breathing. Stopping, relaxing your shoulder, putting your feet flat on the floor, and breathing. That is one of the quickest things you can do. There are some specific ways to breathe for relaxation, but really just the fact that you're getting out of your in your head and kind of trying to come into your body, that's another way to get your brain to feel okay with the situation. So these are all things that you want to kind of have pre-planned. I know that this gets me nervous, so I don't want to think about that. And if I do, then I'll breathe, or this is part of what I do before each race. So it's different for everybody, and I actually have a pre-race mental strategy planner that you guys can download for free if that interests you. That goes into more of the questions that you want to ask yourself and some suggestions of what to put in there. So you can download that for free at completeperformancecoaching.com/race, RACE. And you can just go ahead and grab that, and that can get you started. Okay, so back to food. Once you've got your eating kind of sorted out, or the fact that you're going to feel nauseous, once you've accepted that, that's one thing. And then the best thing to do in your plan is figure out what makes your body feel good. And then you have to trust that you can eat that and you can still perform well, even if you're a little nervous about it. I have a friend who is a holistic nutrition expert, and she recommends that before competition you do less fat and fiber than other meals or other times, because then you can kind of speed up digestion and avoid feeling full. So less fiber and less fat is going to help you feel better. Also, the focus should be on lean protein, and it really should be foods that your athlete knows their body will be okay with. So that look back to, when did you perform well? What did you eat? When did you perform horribly and feel too full? What did you eat? Okay, figure out the clues. What should we be eating? And then just have that be the plan. I wake up at this time, I eat this. Even if I feel nauseous, I eat it because I need to fuel my body. And then I drink my water, and then I get in the car, and then I think about this, and you kind of get a whole plan lined out so that there's no like, should I or shouldn't I eat this? No, it's just what I do. I eat this. And then you don't have to be kind of like running around in fear trying to decide what to do in that day. You just know this is the next thing on my checklist. This is the next thing on my checklist. And that itself can take the nerves down majorly. Okay, so then the next thing, what I did with this client of mine that I'm calling Lauren, is I primed her for flow. And flow is that experience, you guys hear me talk about it all the time, where you click in and everything just flows. All of your training takes over and you don't have to struggle. You're working harder than you ever have. Usually this comes up in those crazy sets that you're like, what is my coach thinking? There's no way we could do that. That's when you find flow, when you're maximizing, you're pushing yourself to the absolute limit. That's when you find the flow. So what we do and this is actually in the Perform Happy community, we have a whole 15 session course on how to basically wire your brain to have more flow experiences. But the number one thing that you guys can do, I'm going to give you a little bit of it, is you can get present. Get in your body. So fear is almost always about, it's always about the future. Fear's in the future. If you're in right now, everything's okay. Unless you're being chased by a tiger, then that's different. But in this moment, no matter where you are, if you're sitting at home or if you're at a meet, you're okay. It's the fear of what's going to happen, what's going to go wrong, that makes everything feel so scary. So if you can train yourself to be in the moment, and that means that you're not thinking about what happened last time, what went wrong before, what could fail again, last week wasn't good, oh my gosh, my taper was off, any of that stuff, that's not in the present either. So you let go of the past, you let go of the future, and you just find yourself in the moment. That's what I had her do. So the way that Lauren started to do this was we had her just decide, your warm up, whatever that is, 400 or 600 or 1,000, you are going to focus on one thing. And so for her, sometimes it'd be the early catch. Sometimes it would be the kick. Sometimes it was her push off or her turns. And she would just laser focus on that one thing. Maybe sometimes it was the bubbles coming out of her nose. It really doesn't matter what you pick, as long as you focus only on the bubbles. And then the second that your mind wanders, you pull it back to the bubbles. And then your mind wanders, you pull it back to the bubbles. And this is meditation, basically. I was teaching her how to meditate in the pool. And any of you who are swimmers, oh my gosh, you have such an opportunity to be training your brain while you're doing the easy stuff, while you're just getting your body warmed up. Get your mind warmed up too for being present. So choose something that just for your warm-up, you are going to completely focus on. And then of course your mind is going to wander because you're human. And then you pull it back. Bubbles, just the bubbles, just the bubbles. And then what she did was she actually started to do this throughout her entire practice. So when you're doing this for 2-3 hours a day, oh my gosh, it makes huge differences, but it's hard. So a lot of people will be like, no thanks, that's too much brain necessary. I just want to check out. I just want to hang out with my friends. But if you can start adding in, just for your warm-up or just for one of your sets, a specific focus that you keep your mind on, that will help you to be more present, it doesn't make sense, but it will actually help you have less anxiety when you go to compete, because you're not going to be so far out in the future or in the past. You're going to be able to be in the moment where everything is okay. Okay, so that's one of the things that gets you into flow. We also, when I worked with her, we addressed her negative thinking. We figured out what was keeping her down, what was eating away at her confidence, and we made some new thoughts to replace those. And then my favorite thing is that so I always have athletes do something in their environment at a meet so they'll remember. Because I can give you techniques all day long, but if you get there and you freak out and you don't remember what to do, it doesn't matter. So she painted her toenails gold. And so every time she got in the blocks and she saw her toenails, she was like, oh yeah, I'm awesome. And then she swam. And that was it. That was what she needed, was just a little oh yeah, I don't have to get into the what ifs. And then meanwhile, she had a plan for if any of the what ifs happened, if her suit ripped, she's got an extra one in her bag. If her goggles fill up, she knows to count strokes. She's got a contingency plan for any possible thing that could go wrong, and she knows what she's going to do if she fails. And this is probably the most important thing. If failure is not the worst case scenario, if failure is just a stepping stone on the way to success, you don't have to fear it. And then you just know, okay, and we went through one of her bad performances, and we basically went, okay, so what can you learn from it? And she's like, well, my dives. I need to work on my dives. So she's put a bunch of effort into working on her dives. The next meet, her dives were phenomenal, and she dropped time. So it takes failing to get the idea of what you really need to put your effort into to improve. And once that clicked for her, oh, I can have a bad race and have that be part of my overall big picture swimming career and actually improve that, then that's going to be great. Okay, so you have to reflect. You have to look back on how did that meet go? What did I learn? What went well? Most importantly, looking back at the good, the bad, and then the lessons learned. And I know you guys hear me say that all the time. Okay, then finally, number 3, I want you guys to get excited instead of afraid. So when people say, calm down when you're nervous, that doesn't help because your brain is firing and you have all this energy and all this adrenaline. So what we want to do is convert that highly activated state of nervousness to an activated state of excitement so that you can be like pumped. You are ready. You need that energy. That's good. That adrenaline is what's going to get you your personal best. So if you can, and there's a study done that showed 3 different groups doing stressful things. I think it was karaoke, a math test, and something else. And they had one of the groups go into that scary task and just dwell on the fact that they were nervous. Just think how nervous they were. One group was supposed to just be neutral, like think about what you had for lunch. And then one group was supposed to think, I'm excited. Think about how excited you are to do this karaoke or to take this math test. And then when they got the results back, the kids who did the excitement, they were significantly better at the task than the people who focused on the nerves, and the neutral group was right in the middle. So thinking about your nerves will actually make you swim worse. Thinking about being excited will make you swim better. So I know it sounds kind of simple, but if you can just shift that to like, ooh, my heart's pounding. This is like when I go up a roller coaster, and I love roller coasters. Here we go. I can't wait. Even if you're kind of lying to yourself a little bit, you're faking it till you make it, go for it. This stuff kind of works. So those are your 3 things. Let's see, I'll recap for you. We are going to have a plan, prime yourself for flow, and get excited. And if you want help finding flow, you can go over to performhappy.com and check out our community. I think it's sold out right now, so you can get on the wait list, and so you'll be the first to know if it opens back up again, if and when, of course, it will open up again. And then if you want to have some help coming up with your pre-race mental strategy, go to completeperformancecoaching.com/race and download that free race strategy planner. And I will be back here again next week answering questions. If you have any questions for me in the meantime, reach out to me at Rebecca@performhappy.com, and I'll see you next week. Thanks for being here.